A to the K.
To the K.
To the K.
Hello, one and all. Welcome to the A to the K Wrestling Show, and welcome to Q&A to the K.
I'm looking forward to this one. You know what? I'm going to ask the first question, Carl. What are you drinking?
Well, it's funny you should ask. Our friends at Top Rope, of course. I mean, I'm
Are
not
you
drinking our
partaking in-
friends, but I'm drinking beer from our friends at Top Rope.
What a coincidence, because I'm also drinking a Top Rope Brewing beer. The Cold Stone Cream Austin.
It's beautiful.
An absolutely amazing,
Absolutely
delicious beer.
Smooth beer. It's a bit like ice cream, funnily enough. But yeah,
I'm getting
nice, sweet.
pissed. It might not be an American term.
Well, it
It
should
means
be.
drunk.
It should be.
But yeah, it's delicious, up there with. We've tried like two of them from the pack we ordered, and I last week I was like, Papa Mango, fucking boss, love it. And then we top it with this one, which is just delicious as well.
Just keep getting better and better, guys.
Honestly, God. This
But,
is a great summer drink.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It is. It's a
It's
shame
a nice
that it's now
hot day,
September.
nice cold beer. So, this one.
I
Go
mean,
for this one.
I always say you can eat ice cream anytime, right? It
Goddamn
tastes
right.
like ice cream. I think you can drink that anytime. But yeah, if you want to drink it, you can go to topropebrewing.com and use promo code A2theK10. Get
That
yourself
one there.
10% off. You're welcome. So we've got Q&A going, haven't we? So thank you to all of our followers on Instagram for sending in questions. I think we've got 15 questions that we're going to try and answer. So if we didn't get to yours, apologies, but hopefully, if you like this, won't be the last one we do, and we'll get there.
And thank you to those who mailed your questions in.
Yes, especially the pictures. Choose Tim. There's no Tim. So let's get into it, shall we? With the first question. This one came to
Probably
us.
a good way to start the show.
That would help. It came to us from Buzzing with Marlowe on Instagram. So thanks very much. And the question was, why do you watch wrestling?
Do you know what? I've been trying to ponder this one. It's actually a really tough question. Like,
Hmm.
because I can't remember a time. Well, I can sort of vaguely remember a time I didn't. But like, we've been watching this since we were kids. Like,
Yeah.
You know, this isn't properly the answer to the question, but I can tell you why we watch wrestling now, and that is like sort of nostalgia, because we always, like, even when we fell out with wrestling for a bit, Carl and I would always meet up and we'd always watch Royal Rumble, we'd always watch WrestleMania in some way, and especially in recent years when you both have families and you don't sort of hang out with your friends as much, we were like, we'll make sure we do that, make sure we catch up. And one of the reasons we started the podcast as well, actually. And I think that's what sort of rekindled the sort of love with wrestling. But in terms of why we watch wrestling at all, I think for me it's like
It's a difficult
it's like
question to answer.
well, it's I've heard the phrase coined before, and I'm not trying to make it sound like this is just for men, as a like wrestling, but I've always heard it coined as like a soap opera for men. Do you know what I mean? And I like that term because, like, it's the storytelling, it's like the sort of classic storytelling, the heroes versus villains kind of thing, and everything's goofy about it. It's over the top, it's ridiculous, it's silly at times, but it's just good fun, isn't it? It's just I don't know.
Because it's better than EastEnders, is what he's trying to say.
Yeah, basically. Why do you all watch the Kardashians?
Yeah. For me, so I've been watching it since 1992, so I was like 4 years old. Just because it was something that my dad and my brother were watching, really. I just massively got into it then, and just got all the Hasbros, been watching it ever since. And to your point, I just can't remember a time when I wasn't watching it. Like, even when we didn't have, like, cable and stuff like that, like that I'd still managed to find the VHS and stuff, catch the stuff that I missed, and I've just always watched it. I can't remember a time that I didn't, and it's just escapism, isn't it? It's a way to get lost in some, storylines and characters and things like that. I mean, it's mad, really. There's a lot of wrestling fans, especially AEW fans, and I'm a big AEW fan, big WWE fan. A lot of the AEW fans watch it just for the great matches. I think I watch it more for the story and the characters and stuff like that. Like,
I think and it's hard to articulate what it is. Like, I'll just call it the buzz, right? But when you get something where it's the perfect blend of everything, like, especially as Brits, like when you're talking about SummerSlam '92,
oh yes,
Bulldog, that match, it was a brilliant match.
Everything.
Two technicians, but the story was there.
Well, that's
or you looking at another one that gets us as Brits. you look at like Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. We were off our seats for that, right? And there's just like a buzz about the whole thing, and that's the only way I can explain it. It's like there's a strange sort of feeling to it, like getting so invested in that. Even if like people are, it's predetermined, scripted, it's like, but not. I didn't script it. I don't know what's going to happen, so it's still unpredictable.
We don't know the outcomes,
you know. But I don't know, it's just something cool about that side of it, where they tell a story so effectively that you're like, you feel that electric from it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me though, it is like the culmination in like the pay-per-views and stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, happy to watch Raw and SmackDown. I still watch it every week. Same with Dynamite and Rampage, and you know, I wish there was more time. We might watch more, but it's all about just getting to that pay-per-view and seeing the match, like the must-see match. Do you know what I mean? It's like the journey you get taken on to.
And you know what? Citing a recent example, like we're both like, what's this mystery that's going on in WWE? Yes. And getting involved in that, it's like trying to find the little bits they've hidden, or trying to crack the code, or
lost. I mean, we're going to be definitely disappointed at the end of it.
Like, no doubt. But like, that's proper fun as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're bringing more of this shit back. Do you know what I mean? It's stuff that I wish AW.
The only other thing I need now is licensed music. We talk about that earlier. Sorry.
Or Jim Johnson. Well,
Jim Johnson. We don't know where he's from.
So don't ask us that one. So I think that's why it's good enough.
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah, you tell us buzzing with Marlo. The next question. So 2 people asked this. So obviously, Cheap Pop Wrestling and Tom Goff 25 again on Instagram. Who should Roman Reigns eventually lose the titles to?
This is a really difficult one.
Should be true.
I think in that moment it should have been. But let's go with the fact that it wasn't. I, for a while, was a very firm believer this. Like, this should be used to push a younger talent. But for me, I think the perfect way to do it, if it's not Drew, is Cody.
Yeah, I mean the story's there. The story is there. I don't know. For me, the story's not there between Roman and Cody. The story's there between Roman and The Rock, for example.
Yeah. When you say eventually lose, though, for me the story needs to be built. But eventually lose, I think Cody benefits more from it from a story standpoint than The Rock would. The Rock has surpassed titles. He's like the Undertaker. The Undertaker come along and won the title. You'd be like, why? You don't need it. It's a legend. The match sells itself anyway. Roman Reigns versus The Rock doesn't have to be for the title.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'd prefer it if it wasn't, but I don't know. Who should he? I mean, I think he will lose it to Cody. The story is there, and he's going to avenge Dusty, and it's all going to be dead good and all that stuff. But I would prefer to have seen Cody beat somebody else for it than Roman, probably. But it is what it is. I think I honestly, and people will hate me for this, I wouldn't have minded someone like an Austin Theory or someone really using somebody to just really elevate someone, because it's how it should be done. It's like when we talked about Undertaker's streak. It's like, yeah, you can give it to Brock Lesnar, and it's good and it's meaningful. But we discussed that. Like, should it have been Brock?
Well, do you know what? We have discussed that, and I think we can both agree. Like, we didn't feel like it should be Brock, but at the same time, they did sort of cement Brock.
Yeah,
so it did work.
Yeah,
I didn't expect it to, but
I think the outcome I got to was, well, who else could it have been if it wasn't going to be, I don't know, someone that they were about to push to the moon at that time?
Well, when we talk about it, I always say, you know what? There's a time when I felt like it should have been Shawn Michaels. Like, that wouldn't have done anything for Shawn Michaels in that sense, because like he was already a legend in the business. So you go, it doesn't necessarily always have to be an up and comer. But like you say, to build an Austin Theory type would be a nice way of doing it. As much as I don't want to agree with you, Carl, I really don't want Austin Theory anywhere near the fucking title.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be Austin Theory, but someone like that,
a young talent who needs to be established. It makes a lot of sense. But for me, I'll go with the obvious answer of saying it's Cody. You only close the Cody storyline off as the man who dethroned Roman.
Yeah, I think it will be.
Personally, I would have loved for it to have been Drew, and then we actually get Cody Drew. Would have been awesome for me.
I mean, that's my choice. I think the moment's gone now. If it's Drew, it would never mean as much as it meant then. So it's a shame they missed the boat. But that's when it should have happened, in my opinion. So, the next one. So this one from Anonymous. So obviously we used NGL to send, basically to let you ask questions anonymously. And this one was, who's your favourite wrestler? Is this right now or of all time? Maybe we should do both.
I'm going to go all time. I mentioned this once or twice on the pod, but Undertaker.
Yeah.
Absolute legend. When I was young, when I was a kid, it was the one you gravitate to, and it's just this, mysterious. But like, I'll be honest, I become a fan of the Undertaker like as the American badass.
Yeah.
And that was the sort of Undertaker I got to know initially. He was like the guy on SmackDown. I was watching SmackDown a lot at the time. mostly because I don't know how it worked in America, but certainly in the UK, SmackDown was on a free channel, and for some reason Raw was on a sports channel, which you had to specifically pay for, and I didn't, because no one in my family watched sports, and obviously just for one show a week didn't make sense. So I used to watch SmackDown every Saturday, and I'd catch the highlights on it. SmackDown was my show, you know what I mean? And Undertaker was the man, and I sort of gravitated to that, and then it's kind of weird because like I got into Undertaker as the American Badass, Big Evil, we're going to say, and then he sort of returned to the original Undertaker thing. He had that feud with Kane, and he got buried alive, and I was like, "Wow, what's going on here?" And then Paul Bearer came back, and I got to know his sort of resurgence as Undertaker, which was awesome as well. And then naturally you look back and you go, well, when he debuted in the Royal Rumble and stuff like that. So you watch some of the classic stuff, but if I'm honest, it's Undertaker, but it's actually started with the American Badass.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to do my old one?
Yeah, then we'll go through currents.
So obviously,
currents. I want to be sure. I kind of want currents.
Currents. So I think anybody who's listened or watched probably knows I'm a massive Bret Hart fan. I'm a massive Mr. Perfect fan, and Roddy Piper's probably up there as well. But I don't know, probably body of work wise, it'd have to be Bret Hart, wouldn't it? But yeah, I love Mr. Perfect, but I'd have to just give the edge to Bret Hart. I think about this a lot, to be fair. I'm trying to justify.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't go for Perfect. I know it's such a tough choice for you. Yeah, I know it's a tough choice for you because I felt like you were going to go for Mr. Perfect, and like I know he's been on your list many a time.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
But it's just it's stuff like the thing with Perfect was his character was fantastic. His charisma was amazing, and he could back it up in the ring as well. It was the same. People always say Bret didn't have any charisma or anything like that, but I don't know. He was always someone that made you root for him, and he was the guy that you never thought would win the belt because it's been like the Hogan show and the Warrior show and all this kind of stuff, and then you've got Bret was like the first People's Champion, really, someone that you didn't think would ever do it, and then he did. And yeah, best there is, best there was, best there ever will be, buddy. How about now?
Nice.
Well, current.
It's actually really difficult,
do you want me to go first? Because I've been thinking about it while
if you could.
And this might shock people. I'm going to go MJF. Actually going to go MJF is my favourite thing in wrestling right now. I love the Acclaimed as well, don't get me wrong, but it's one of them. Like, I think Drew McIntyre's awesome over in WWE. After that, I'm kind of clutching straws a little bit on WWE, unfortunately. But it's got to be MJF, man. I talked before about generational talent, and I know he says it all the time, so like that. This kid is fucking brilliant. He's got one of the best promos in the business, and whenever he doesn't get in the ring often, when he does, he's always put on a fantastic match, and he can clearly wrestle. He just feels fresh, different, and I just love the guy. He's captivating TV. Whenever he comes on, it's like I've got to watch to see what he does next. I don't think there's anyone else in the wrestling business right now that makes me do that.
Yeah, I get that.
So I'm going to go MJF.
Okay, I'm going to give you a bit of a wild shout. Go. And I can't say the same things. I can't say that when he gets in the ring, it's going to be an incredible match, because there have been some ones that I've been not too enamoured on, and you're not going to expect this one, but I'm actually going to say Seth Rollins.
Good shout, to be fair.
He's an absolute fucking legend. He's you know what? And it sounds stupid, but in the post media press thing they did after Clash, basically someone mentioned about I can't remember quite how they phrased it, but they made it sound like Seth didn't take wrestling seriously, and his response to that just really enamored me to him, because I'm like, you know what? Yeah, he really invests in his character so much that people are going to him, oh, you don't take this seriously. It's like, he's freaking real.
Yeah.
And he basically was like, no, I live this business and so on like that. And and that kind of won me over a little bit on that. Not that I was on the fence with him, but that kind of made me go, you know what? Fair play.
Yeah.
But he is, I think, almost overlooked because he's been there. He's been on that grind for a long time. But every character they've given him, everything he's had to do, everything they've thrown at him, he's fucking done it, and he's blew it out the park, really. Even like the Messiah stuff was awesome. I know they had some goofy elements like with the eye thing and all that, but the Messiah gimmick was awesome. Everything it did, like even this over the top snarky fucking asshole. I don't know how to explain his current gimmick, but even that with the laugh and everything, it just fucking
rolling.
It was just spot on. And I think, you know what, for someone who's consistently great I've got to give him that shout out and say, you know what? Yeah, he probably is my favourite wrestler at the moment.
He was probably my favourite wrestler when around that time he was like the Beast Slayer and all that. He was just like, what was his thing? Rebuild, reclaim, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, redesign, rebuild, reclaim.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, because he's so talented, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, his current version, I think, is while it's entertaining, I don't know, it's feeling a bit.
But we're due a change. That's what's going to happen. But I mean, because you could go into the element of like, for a lot of the reasons that I'm calling Seth my favourite at the moment is reasons you could even tag to Kevin Owens. Like I just shout out to Kevin Owens briefly to Kevin Owens, who's just consistently a fucking brilliant worker.
I just don't think he's been there.
His match with Stone Cold was just a WrestleMania moment, fucking awesome. So yeah, like just a quick shout out to him. But for me, Seth Rollins, I think at the moment.
Yeah, good choice. And yeah, I could have pointed to MJF over there as well. Point to both my favourite wrestlers.
I know.
Don't pick his nose. So the next one from Jordan Taylor himself, the Wrestling Takeover. And
Jordan.
Is Seth Rollins the best? Well, apparently.
Fucking is, yeah.
Look at that. Wavelengths.
Nice. I'd just say, by the way, I didn't pre-read these questions, so as much as you might be thinking, oh, he's just pretending he didn't know what was coming up and that was all design, it wasn't. I genuinely haven't read the questions until now. I wanted honest answers. And couldn't agree with you more, Jordan.
Yeah, it's fascinating, really, isn't it? Is he the best thing in WWE at the moment?
I agree with you. You've asked the question because I assume you do think that. I'd be interested to know now. But I certainly obviously think that. But I'm assuming there's some debate here, Carl, because I listed Kevin Owens a second ago. You mentioned MJF. Would you consider Seth the best thing in wrestling now, considering overall what they do for the
best
business?
Thing in WWE?
In WWE. I do apologise.
I honestly don't know. I mean, you can't argue that Roman's had a fantastic year since he's come back and he's had the Bloodline stuff and things like that.
Yeah,
Is he the best thing in wrestling right now? To be fair, I'd
probably think PWI.
Well, in WWE, sorry, yeah. In WWE, I'd probably say Roman's still the best thing going there.
So it was definitely a member of the Shield.
Yes. And yeah, fair play to Mox. He's holding it up in AEW as well. So the Shield come good, but. Yeah, I don't know whether he's the best thing. He's enjoyable, but I feel like his last couple of feuds, so the stuff with Cody went on forever, and now the stuff with Riddle is going on forever, and it's just he's a massively talented guy, but it gets stale so quick.
Unfortunately, it seems like WWE never know when to stop a storyline, especially because I've joked about this so many times when these people chant and fight forever, and they seem to take it literal. I'm quietly waiting for Johnny Gargano to go up against Tommaso Ciampa again because fuck it, why not? But I appreciate that, and as I say, I can't sit here and go, everything he's done is delivered, because there are some elements that I'm like, okay. Yeah. And it's not usually like this storyline hasn't worked or this is ridiculous. It's usually elements of, as like I mentioned with the Messiah gimmick, when it got goofy and he started gouging people's eyes out and stuff. I was like, that's a bit too much, because I'm willing to suspend disbelief, but I don't think you blinded Ray. And it's elements like that. I was like, but the Messiah gimmick overall was awesome. So for me, it's never the whole thing. It's always like small elements that you go, okay, that's, But I don't think that's enough to take the credit away. I do think he is the best thing in WWE.
Interesting. I don't know whether it is Reigns. I do think it is the Bloodline, but I think it's easier to say like a faction because there's more elements to it. You could argue like there'll be people that says Reigns is the best thing. There's people that say Paul Heyman's the best thing. Some people will love Sami Zayn. Nobody thinks the Usos.
The thing is, though, with Paul Heyman, you kind of got to let that one go, because that's like going, Brock's never been a legend, just Paul Heyman. In all fairness, he's been fucking fine by himself for a little while now as well. But you know what I mean? Paul Heyman's an absolute great mouthpiece for anyone, and I think perfectly needed for Roman. But then Roman's proven himself. Like we're looking at like current Bloodline stuff, and it's easy to forget Roman over the last few years that he's proven he can be a talker. He's proven that he can be a fantastic heel, and I don't know, for me, he is very good, and it is a really tough choice. He probably would be a lot of people's first choice, but I mean, I'd certainly, if I weren't listing Seth, I would probably say Roman, to be fair.
Yeah, they're both up there.
Yeah,
sure.
The Shield.
Yeah. All-time dream match. I would go Brett versus Kurt Angle.
Right.
Either as a singles or Brett versus Kurt versus Perfect as a triple threat. It's probably my wet dream. So you know.
Yeah.
think the story that could be built up from that, like all of them, like in their own way from a promo style. Like imagine Kurt and like even just Kurt or like some combination of them three. From a promo standpoint, you couldn't get better than Kurt and Perfect.
Oh.
That would be like, you're not perfect. You didn't win a gold medal with a broken freaking neck and all that kind of stuff. And Kurt come back. Kurt versus Kurt, as you know.
Honestly, like I'm struggling with this question, like because there's so many options, but I would agree with you that Kurt consistently comes up for dream matches. He's a fantastic wrestler, fantastic talker.
How often did we get Kurt versus Taker?
Well, this is probably where I'd go. I've got to put my favourite of all time up against Kurt Angle because I think the story by itself.
I'm sure really had a bad match.
No, and that might be where it goes in terms of a dream match, but it's really difficult because then you go, well, do you bring in elements of triple threats or do you Royal Rumble all Kurt's, Kurt of course.
That's what was Undertaker Sting ever on your list?
Do you know what? It should have been. I don't think it ever really was. Like I toyed with WCW for a while before I watched WWE properly as a kid. And you again, because I was that type of kid, you gravitate towards the mysterious face painty guy. So I was like, Sting's cool.
I know you're a Darby Allin fan.
I know it. So me kids over like, this Sting guy's cool. So like that's the one I'll like in WCW kind of thing. But and considering that you could argue that was probably the only real wrestler I knew in WCW as a kid, that I'd want that match because then I went on to watch WWE and become a big fan of Undertaker. But I don't know. I understand the concept that it's kind of a mirror match and they were both similar characters for their respective companies. But I don't know. There's just something that never drew me into that.
No.
Like, I don't be wrong. I feel it gutted that we never got it and we probably won't now. But at the same time, it's like I don't know. I'm not as upset as some. Like I wasn't that bothered by it. Okay. How about yourself? Were you big on that as a match?
No, not really. I think it was blown out of proportion. To be honest, I think it was just like, oh well, he's mysterious in WCW and he's mysterious. I don't think it would have been a good match, sure, but I never was like, because I never saw that much similarity in the gimmicks. People were just like, it's like their version of Undertaker. Is it though? You know what I mean? Well, I'm not too sure.
He's literally a version of the Crow.
Exactly. So I'm like, it's not quite the same. But no, I would say mine would be Kurt Angle versus Brett versus Mr. Perfect. If I could do a triple threat, if not, it would be.
I'm surprised the British Bulldog doesn't come up in the conversation.
The thing is with Davey, I'm a massive Davey fan. I just don't think he was never the best wrestler out there or the best promo out there and stuff.
Like at a time when, like in a technical sense, there was a lot of competition. So I get that.
Yeah, he was still a great. Do you know what I mean? But I think if I was going to build up my favourite match, I think from like a promo side, you probably let it down a little bit and stuff. So it's, I think because I was saying about it's the build to the event, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
So it's like there's got to be stuff. So for me, it'd be some kind of combination with them.
And this is, funnily enough, when you say about the build and the storyline, this is one of the reasons that I always throw Shawn Michaels versus Taker so highly the first time. Well, both, but the first time. Because the storyline was perfect. Yeah. And we both can agree that, even though you hate Shawn Michaels.
I fucking hate Shawn Michaels.
But that match can go down in history, or those matches can go down in history, because it was told so perfectly.
Yeah. I suppose question for people who are watching this or listening to this, can you be a Brett and Shawn fan at the same time? I don't think it's possible. But yeah. So, interesting. Would you go with some kind of combination of that then? Kurt Taker maybe?
Kurt Taker in some form, yeah. Yeah, for me.
That's fair. The next one, anonymous as well. What's the best and worst thing about wrestling right now? Okay,
I'll go with worst initially. We'll get the negative out of the way. And I'm actually going to say it's this, the bullshit. That's the best way to explain it. I'm not going to say the fan base. That sounds like too.
Fans.
That sounds too negative. And a lot of people like, the fans are ruining wrestling. It's not the fans. It's the people who want to make money out of the fans, or the people who like to either lie or speculate. And like, look at AEW as an example now. There's definitely some shit going on, bit of controversy going on. Punk lost his shit, and we talk about it, so it might sound a little bit hypocritical. But we're not making shit up. We're talking about what we've read in the news. That's a slight difference as far as I'm concerned. But when people are there, like now, the one we mentioned earlier, like, Kenny Omega, he's rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way. It's like, is there any truth to that? And we can't tell anymore because there's that many people bullshitting. Like, I'm not specifically picking out any, but like, it's when we had a report that Thunder Rosa was asking for their release in AEW, and then that was like they had to put a statement out that it wasn't true, and you're like, but why? Like,
Yeah.
I think that because you get like so many people like, oh, you know, AEW's it's you know it's gonna go under, and it's really they fucked up massively and something like that. It's like, calm down. You know, I like wrestling. I like AEW. I like WWE. I'd probably watch a lot more of the indies if I had the time, but I don't have a problem watching either of these shows. I want them both to thrive, and I just that's the worst bit of it. Like, and we go on social media, we look at what's going on because we're genuinely interested, and you get loads of shit that mostly isn't true. So for me, probably the worst thing is actually the bullshit side.
Okay, mine, and it feels a bit one-sided here to WWE, but 3-hour Raw.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. And this is probably more akin to the question because it's specifically about wrestling.
It's the worst thing.
I agree. I think it's too much.
It's so overkill. You can't fill that much content on a weekly basis, especially when you've also got 2 hours of SmackDown, and you're now starting to cross over people onto shows anyway.
To keep a balance, because it's not just targeting WWE. Similarly, I would say Rampage has a problem in the same way, well, in the opposite way, I suppose. That I don't think an hour is long enough for them.
See, when Rampage first started, it was the perfect blend of show because it was enough because it had like 2 or 3 matches and enough promo and stuff. And now they have like 5, 6 like matches on there.
I think the problem is not so much that you can't do a show in an hour. I think there's that much going on in AEW that they can't have an hour-long show. They need longer.
Maybe.
So if we're talking Raw having too much time, they don't have enough.
Yeah.
And I think to keep the balance.
Yeah, maybe that's fair. But yeah, for me, it's just Raw's just so painful. It could be a really good show if it was just trimmed. I wouldn't actually. I mean, this could be controversial. I think maybe even 2 hours is a bit too long these days. I
think a nice hour and a half would be a decent.
Maybe show. You know, similar to a Premier League game, 90 minutes. Maybe that's what we need.
A bit of half time.
A little bit of half time.
Injury time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cody's getting an extra hour right there.
Yeah, God. But yeah, like I don't know, maybe especially with people's attention spans and stuff, people just can't. You know what I mean? And today, so yeah, I think maybe that for me, 3-hour Raw is just too long. Best thing, the competition's back to a degree, and people will disagree. Oh, AEW's nothing, whatever. You can't argue that WWE hasn't stepped up their game since Triple H has come over. No pun intended. Since Triple H has come over, but also like. Because AEW exists, like you can clearly see it. Like Triple H wouldn't be bringing back all these people and all that kind of stuff if he didn't want to create a buzz. I mean, I get it. People would say, "Oh no, just because he's only just taken over the reins." But I know what the fuck. Just take the conversation and go. Let's make that into a superstar name. But yeah, for me, the fact competition's back, and I like the Tony's getting riled up. The Tony's getting pissed. I mean, I don't like. Obviously, we've taking the piss about his comments. I've got more fucking money than Jim Crockett. Okay, cool. But it's exciting because you don't know what they're going to do, and that like when wrestling was its best is when there was 2 major promotions and they were both trying to get the better rating. That's how it should be. I don't think AEW is going to be surpassing WWE anytime soon, but yeah, it's good that there's competition.
I'd have to agree with you. I don't think I can say anything any better. I mean, part of me was like probably a slight mark. Response, I suppose, would be like Triple H, maybe. Like literally, currently, like he's killing it.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think competition helps the creativity for both companies. So I think that's probably the perfect answer for that.
Okay. Next one, also anonymous. Who and when was your first kiss? I was a bit of a slag. I think I was in like primary school. To be honest, I used to have this friend. She was like. Used to live up the road from me when I was about 4, and I'm pretty sure I used to go up there and just kiss her all the time. That probably didn't count. So my first like big boy high school kiss was probably when I was about 11 or 12. I liked this girl, but I was short ass and she was quite tall, and I had to stand on my backpack to reach her to give her a kiss. And yeah, that was probably me first proper one.
I'm hoping any day now.
Any day. Hilarious. Interesting question. I wonder whether that is a legit question or whether
I know it felt because we had a few that felt like procedurally generated in a way. You know,
So
like that went, like that one. You know, you go, well, okay, somebody could be having a bit of fun with that question. Some of them just were like totally so unrelated to what we do that you go, this is a bit too generic.
I wonder whether this NGL is just like, these haven't had a response in an hour. Let's send.
Considering everyone around was like, what's your favourite pasta? And it's like, the fuck was it? You know,
that is a great question actually.
Tortellini. Do you
think?
I don't know. It sounded good.
I like all of it. Okay, the next one from Wrestling Blog UK. This guy is awesome, by the way. So check him out on Instagram. Just an absolute.
Couldn't agree more.
What stable could you build that would rival the Bloodline?
Oh, that is tough. That is a tough one. I think Carl's got something going here in his head.
Why he hates it. Do you know what it is? It's a really interesting question, though.
I'm trying to think of stuff that would be good, like, because I assume we're building one from scratch. So it wouldn't be like saying, well, you know, if we got the Elite over with Cody, you know, that's something that exists or has existed. So I suppose we have to build something from scratch to it.
Yeah, maybe.
As a concept. I mean, the Wired 6 option could be a great one. I mean, what are you seeing here with the Sami Zayn thing? Like, because this might sound a bit of a wild choice, but I'm looking at it like, you know, Sami's kind of an inside man, but he's really close with the likes of Kevin Owens. So you could be looking at like your sort of your OGs going like, well, you get, you know, KO, you get Sami Zayn in there, you get like even Rollins on some level. Like, you know, you could flip flop in that segment, like Invasion all over again. Which side's he really on? So maybe you could build something from the people who come up together. I mean,
the natural parallels between, so you've got Roman's parallel will probably be Seth Rollins, Sami's will probably be Kevin Owens. Tag teams, Street Profits, looking for, you know what I mean? Like,
trouble is, I think there's a real struggle with tag teams at the moment. Like, because you want to build a stable that has a tag team to rival Usos, but like, they're either tag teams that you can't really. There isn't much of a story there, like, because straight away my head goes Street Profits, probably the next best tag team there at the moment. New Day are kind of around, but you know,
Alpha Academy.
Alpha Academy.
You could potentially do something with like Drew, Sheamus's little.
You could build up, faction. You could build up Sheamus and Scrappy Doo and the other guy and Drew.
Or you can bring the Viking Raiders in.
Yeah, it's another show.
Do something there. Do you know what I'd love to say? That the best way to rival, I mean, is another wrestling dynasty. So you've got the Anoa'i family, so you'd have like the Hearts, or you'd have, you know what I mean? You'd have the fucking, who else is like the.
Can you imagine though? You get Harry, you know, and you get like try and say the Hearts, and like who's like, cause sadly there's not a lot. In terms of like, because you like, sadly there's a few injured outs and stuff like that, and so you can't really build the Heart side. I was about to, but you can't.
Yeah. I think in an ideal world that would be, you know what I mean, you've got another kind of family with similar kind of lineage, but I don't think that really exists massively.
So it shows you how big the Anoa'i family are in that sense.
I mean, throwing it over to AEW, is the Blackpool Combat Club possible rival for the Bloodline?
I mean, if you're bringing people over from AEW, like a tag team that I'd love to see rival Usos would be the Acclaimed.
That'd be fucking odd.
You get the Acclaimed over to. I don't know who the faction would be overall, but you get the Acclaimed up against the Usos, would be there for that. Like.
Oh God, I would love that so much.
Maybe when we get the AEW invasion.
Well, yeah, you know, that could definitely work. You know what? It's a fan. I suppose it speaks volumes of how good they are as a stable, and they do have obviously everything. They've got the whole lineage. They've got attack. They've got basically people that can get championships at all levels, haven't they? Now that they've got that. Sequoia, whatever the fuck it's called as well. Sequoia. So, yeah, but maybe, I don't know, Blackpool Combat Club or some kind of Heart Dynasty. They've done that before, but still.
That's the trouble. You can't even build the same Heart Dynasty. You'd have to like try and get some people who've been sort of trained in the Heart Dungeon, maybe, but like it'd be very loose connections. But like Harry, for instance.
Yeah, fantastic one. Who knows?
Yeah.
Different.
It's a tough one. Different. Who can rival them?
What's the weirdest thing that's happened on the show?
On this show?
I assume on this show. On our show.
Like on the show or around the show?
Maybe just the weirdest thing that's happened to us since we've had the show. Like, could be getting spotted in public. We've had that happen.
We're picking like surreal things, like weird. I'll answer some weird in a minute, but like weird in the sense of like didn't expect that, or that was really surreal. Like it'd be like speaking to DDP.
Yeah, Mickey
Or-
James.
or being approached by people we've chatted to on socials who know us as A2theK. So we're like, it's happened a couple of times now, both for Love Wrestling and Wales Comic Con, and it was a chap we were chatting to on Twitter, and we ran this in a couple of times. That's kind of surreal too, like to be sort of known by our brand in some sense is kind of cool.
It was crazy to be recognised. Like, oh, I've seen your guys' show and stuff, and it's like, cool.
Well, it's like when we were waiting in line to, I think
there is other people
waiting
just
to see Georgia.
Yeah.
Weren't we? And a lad come up and he was like, saying about listening to our show. And I was like, that's fucking cool. Yeah. So that's But
Felt kind of weird, didn't it, at the time?
Oh yeah. Because we don't know how to take that graciously yet, because most people don't know.
No.
But weirdest. It's a tough one. I don't suppose we've had anything too bad in terms of weirdness, have we? We had. Can I mention interactions we've had trying to get guests? So.
Yeah.
Is that appropriate?
Okay, as long as you don't name drop individuals.
Okay. I can't name the guests, right? But I've got two stories that these are probably the weirdest things that happened around the show in a sense. So we've had one person sort of semi kick off on us. So I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of what we do in terms of guests, but we generally want to chat to people that we're genuinely interested in speaking to. And whilst we appreciate time is money and so on like that, and we appreciate some people charge, we don't tend to pay for guests.
No.
Right? We'll ask people, and they might go, "Oh, I charge this amount," and they may go, "Yeah, or nay." And we've had plenty of people say, "Sorry, no thanks to pass" or whatever, and that's fair. They're entitled to charge what their worth is, and other people like. When you look at the likes, we've spoke to the likes of DDP, who's an absolute legend in the business, but he wasn't. He was just happy to speak to us about what he's doing at the moment.
Yeah.
We obviously try and promote him as much as we can, but he's a legend in himself. He's famous on his own, so that what we're offering to the table is definitely slightly imbalanced. But he's not. He wasn't there to be like, well, no, I want like £7,000. So it's not even about like, oh, he's a big star, you should pay him or anything like that. But we've approached many, and there's two strange interactions we had. So the first one was basically the thing you come in around money, and they wanted, again, not naming the wrestler or the agent, but they wanted a fairly extortionate amount, and we were like, well, we're an independent podcast, we're doing something we really enjoy, we're not like loaded, we're not Tony Khan, so we couldn't really stretch to that, but and this is like us trying to be like trying to respect that, but also be like, well, we still want to speak to you, so we're like, would you consider X amount? And instead of well, no, or anything like that, we got kind of kicked off on, didn't we?
It was apparently an insult to and bear in mind, we paid for one guest. If you think of all the guests we've had on the show, and it was a very nominal fee, and it was very early on in our run before we probably not knew better, because that's not fair to say.
No, certainly before we popped off as anything.
Because we're so famous.
So
but yeah, before we did like very many interviews at all, like we paid, I think it was like $50 or something, wasn't it? For one interview. We haven't paid for another one since. So bear in mind, this particular guest who kicked off on us, we don't pay anyway. So we're us going, oh well, we explicitly said, look, we don't pay. We're obviously happy to promote you. We do right by all of our guests. We make sure that
forevermore, by the way, it's not like a one-time deal.
No, if they've ever been on this show, we will forever have their back. Whatever they share, we will share. We will support. Well, exactly. It's like
it's not like they ask us to, but we fucking want to.
And we know for a fact that there's many a show, a podcast out there, wherever, who will just go email all of the people and see who bites. And I've said this to you many times. Like, we could do that, but who could be asked thinking of questions to ask somebody you're not interested in?
Genuinely, like, and it's no insult to, like, because again, there's a lot of wrestlers we don't know who are probably fucking awesome, but it's the ones we've seen and we like, oh, we'd love to have a conversation with that.
And it's one of them as well, and I don't want to. I mean, I am going to shit. I'm not trying to shit on any podcast. I don't know what podcasts have had these people on, but I always joke about it all the time. I would never reach out to Jeff Jarrett because I don't give a fuck about Jeff Jarrett, and I would feel uncomfortable trying to think of questions to ask him because I don't give a shit.
That's a very personal thing
like
to Carl. Like he doesn't like Jeff Jarrett.
Don't like Jeff Jarrett.
A lot of people do, so I understand he's getting interviews.
It's the same with like Bobby Fish, for example. Like he might rock out, he might do like a podcast circuit or whatever, and you see he pops up on other shows, and we could go, oh, he's been on these shows, maybe we should contact him. Why? I don't want to talk to Bobby Fish. No offence.
But again, it's down to personal interest. So you approach the ones you want to speak to. So bear in mind, this was a person that we wanted to speak to, and apparently it was like, it's an insult, this, that, and the next thing. Like,
this person is a legend.
Because we really want to speak to them, and we remember them fondly, but they weren't really classed in the legend status, if we're honest.
Yeah.
And we got back to them and was like, look, we didn't mean any disrespect. We appreciate that that's the case, but we certainly weren't trying to insult, and we just got blanked, didn't we? So that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
That we upset someone.
We had a more recent one, didn't we?
And then recently, this one was suspect as fuck, right? And this might, any other podcasts, I might throw some names out on this one, Carl, because I truly believe this is a scam. Have we still got it?
Can't be sued for defamation here, can we? That's all I care about.
It's an opinion thing. I believe it's a scam. I'm not saying it is. Is it still in here?
I think I blocked them.
Oh, okay then. No, I won't give any names because I don't know who it was anymore. But Carl reached out to I'm not going to name names. So he represented a wrestler, and we were like,
a classic wrestler who was also turned up somewhat recently on the show as well. Someone that I was a big fan of, a heel back in the day. Yeah, I wanted to speak to them.
Yeah, and we were like, that would be cool. We had his agent's details there, so we were like, oh, we'll message his agent, see what the script is. So Carl sent the usual message, like, we'd really love to speak to the guy, big fans. Explaining what we're about and what we want to speak to that particular person about. And they got back to us and were like, bear in mind this is someone's agent. They were like, just literally was like 3 words. Is there any money, or is there a monetary value to it, or something like that? But it was like,
will there be a monetary contribution?
Will there be a monetary contribution? Was the response like, no, hi, I'm such a person. No signing off as the company. No words at all.
Something
really,
you wouldn't expect from an agent.
Is the money involved? And you go, well, this feels nice and professional. So
we basically was like,
Carl got back and was like, in the politest way, no.
Yeah. Well, here's
because
what
again, exactly, yeah. And he come back and he was like, literally one word answer, pass. I'm like, fantastic agent so far, really conducted himself professionally. I'm so glad that he has these sort of clients. And then after that, Carl, in all fairness, was like, again, because we're not unwilling to pay, we just don't want to pay stupid amounts, and generally we don't pay for guests. So we were like, okay, well, let's see what it is. So Carl was like, out of curiosity, not saying that we will, but what typically would he charge, sort of thing. And the guy come back and put like, did he even say the full thing, or did he just put 1K?
I think he just put 1K, full stop.
Yeah, it was $1,000, but didn't even bother putting that in. Like, he couldn't have even put it in a full sentence. It was just like 1K. So we're like,
so I was like, right.
So
then obviously,
then we were like,
some sleuthing.
Pass. So I was like, it wasn't even so much that they were asking for money, or even asking for such an extortionate amount of money as well. For like, bear in mind, this was for 30 minutes. And we were like, what the, right? So I'm like, this feels massively unprofessional. So I started Googling this guy's name and this company's name. So for starters, the email address he was using, the domain was up. You could buy it from GoDaddy or whatever the fucking website it was. So it was kind of dead. But he obviously was using the email address in some way, so there's some sort of redirect going on there, or whatever. So you're like, okay, the company doesn't strictly exist. That's weird. So then I started Googling a name, and he's on LinkedIn. He's like, I represent these people. He's got a janky YouTube channel, and it's like, these are all the people I represent, and here's videos of them confirming that I represent them, but they weren't. They were like videos of them going, oh, hey, I can't remember his name, so his name wasn't Dave. I'm just like, oh, hey, Dave, I'm so glad to speak. And it was like, that's your confirmation, because they're not saying this guy represents me or anything like that. They were just acknowledging that he exists. It was like he's like he paid for a cameo.
Yeah.
And it was also like he recorded it on a Nokia 3310 as well, because the quality was shocking. So I'm like, again, this doesn't feel like a professional agent. So I was trying to find proof that this company was real and it did actually represent people. And in the end, I found like basically a load of forums and a load of places that were saying, this guy's a crook, and he basically
doesn't represent anyone.
He doesn't represent anyone. What he does is he brokers a deal with people, apparently in a really shit way, because there was no professionalism at all. Brokers a deal with people and then approaches the person and goes, I've got you a job here. It's $500, and he pockets the rest. I was like, okay, so he's a scammer. So, for those who are willing to pay for guests, just watch out for cunts like that. But that was fucking weird.
Oh,
And you know what? He might have hid the fact that he was a con artist if he'd have actually talked and conducted himself in any way that was professional.
Yeah.
So they're the weirdest things that have happened on the show for me, I think.
Very much. But yeah, strange. Very strange. So the next question from RK_25.0. Thoughts on the possibility of Omega and the Bucks in WWE?
Now, I think I've talked to you about this off air, but I'll go first of it, mate, because I don't like it. And it's not anything against the Bucks or Omega, but they're so indie, they're so non-WWE that I actually would find it really kind of surreal. Like, I'm not massively against it if they rock up and they have a great career in WWE, more power to them. But on an initial thought point of view, if they just suddenly turned up, that would be like really surreal. And like, these aren't like the WWE. These are so, they're not like anti-WWE, but they're so independent. Like, I think I mentioned this to you a little while back, Carl. It may have been last week when we were talking about it on the show, so I might have mentioned this element, but like, they were like probably the most popular indie wrestlers at one point. Like, the Elite was a massive thing. They made themselves huge in New Japan. So for these guys to be so synonymous with being famous despite not being part of WWE, it'd be really, for me, it'd be a really strange one, like, for them to be in WWE.
Yeah, I'm not sure they fit the mold there. I think Kenny Omega could make an AJ Styles type Royal Rumble.
Yeah, because there was a time you'd probably say the same thing. AJ will never go to WWE.
I never thought that, like, especially with Vince in charge, I was like, he's too small, he doesn't fit the mold. Vince, he's southern. Vince doesn't want them accents, all that kind of stuff. And then he rocks up, becomes a major star. So Kenny, maybe. I can't see the Bucks in there. I mean, maybe Triple H sees something in them, I don't know. But as it stands, WWE does not value that tag division still, even with Triple H. Could be proven wrong on that. But if he does get, if the Bucks do get brought in, who do they feud with? There's no one. Like, what, Alpha Academy and Street Profits and the Usos? Alright.
That's the thing. There's one thing WWE hasn't fixed yet, is the fact that the tag scene is still kind of woeful.
Yeah. But I think, again, like you mentioned before, around, like, if WWE brought back, like, Harry Smith or people like that, no offence to them, but would it get the crowd pop that people expect? The Bucks, I'm not sure it would.
No. I think the question really, I suppose, is would enough of the crowd know who they were to pop?
Yeah, good point.
It's the bottom line, isn't it? Like, people like to play the numbers game constantly with AEW and WWE. WWE's drawing millions to their just under $1 million.
Well,
so there's a big difference in terms of
1.1 mil on Dynamite this past week.
Yeah, but the example being like they're just about breaking $1 million, and then you've got consistently over 2.
Yeah, SmackDown
and Raw. And you go, well, like, I know that doesn't necessarily always translate to like the in-arena audience and all that, but the reality is they seem to have a much bigger audience in WWE, and a lot of that audience clearly aren't watching AEW. So you go, well, is there going to be a massive pop for them?
Yeah, I don't know.
As wrestling fans, like, we'd be like, holy shit. And one example being like, and Cody was a WWE guy, but how weird was it seeing Cody in WrestleMania? And that was like, it was fucking cool, because it was like, that's AEW Cody. Like, not a single thing changed. Yeah. Not the music, not the attire, it's AEW Cody, which made it even stranger. And that was strange and awesome, so it's not impossible. But I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know how I'd feel if they just suddenly walked out on, like, these are one of the unexpected people that Triple H got somehow. I don't know how. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be. I'm very much that type of guy. We're like, let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be against it.
If they end up there, I legitimately think it would be as a fuck you to Tony.
Oh yeah, without
I think that they need them and fit their company and their vision. I genuinely don't. There's no offense to Omega or the Bucks. I just don't see it personally. But we've been wrong before. We'll be wrong again. Okay, non-wrestling one again. Anonymous. What's your favourite movie?
This is so difficult.
So hard. This is the only one that I've been trying to think about, and I still can't rack my brain. I think because movies are so diverse, I don't even think I'd be able to answer properly what's your favourite comedy, or what's your favourite thriller, or what's your favourite, drama, or whatever. A film I watch every year consistently around Thanksgiving, because even though I'm British, I celebrate Thanksgiving because I'm like that. And I have a soft spot for Florida.
The Yankee heart.
I'm a Yankee heart, but every Thanksgiving I watch Planes, Trains and Automobiles. Because it's fucking brilliant. So I always watch that every year. This,
again, it's hard to pick an exact favourite, but one that has a special place in my heart while we're in that area, and I think we can both agree on this one. Three Amigos.
I love Three Amigos.
Fucking awesome.
I watched it not too long ago. Like, basically, classic films with Steve Martin in are great.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
But, you know what, I can rattle off a few that are certainly up there for me, and, you know, some people will be like, oh, you know, like, if you're a film buff, you'd be like, some of these are trash, but, like, Fast and Furious, like, the original Fast and Furious, before they started being, like, you know, superhuman bank thieves, when it was literally just about cars and shit. I fucking love that film. I've watched it many times, and again, it's exactly what it is. So if I want to sit down and watch like a really well written, well thought out, fantastic plot of a film, I'm not sat and watching Fast and Furious. So this is where I can't call it like favourite movie ever, but again, it's a film I will go back to repeatedly. And then you know, I suppose there's another genre of films that I think are fucking brilliant that I'll never watch again, like Green Mile. Fantastic film. Never watching that again.
I think we spoke briefly. Like any Tom Hanks film is typically a
Tom Hanks. Yeah, I can give you that. Favorite, almost like I would dare say favorite actor. But if Tom Hanks is in a film, I'll watch it. I don't care what the film's about. Right, I will watch it because I feel this is a man who has crafted his career so carefully that I know he's put thought into the roles he does.
Yeah,
so he's got
a good film.
Yeah, so he's looked at it and gone, "This is worth me being in," and because he's done that, I'm like, "This is probably worth a watch." To the point, like, me and my wife, who she is an Elvis fan, so was a lot more invested in it. But we watched the Elvis recently. Now that is typically something I'd have been like, you know, I wasn't going to go out of my way and watch it, but you know, Tom Hanks was in it, and my wife's an Elvis fan, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. Fantastic film.
Yeah, definitely.
And no doubt, you know, Tom Hanks is a legend. Forrest Gump, constantly go back to all the time.
Yeah.
I reference it all the time.
Yeah, literally everything he's been in.
It's annoying for you because your wife's named Jenny.
That is true. And she doesn't like it when I say it like that. But speaking of Tom Hanks, I'm a big Disney fan. Toy Story is up there.
Wow, legend.
Lion King is another one of mine. I also love Christopher Nolan stuff. So like
Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight is up there. Inception. Also not a Nolan film, but another one that I've watched a couple of times now. I really like mindfuck movies or ones with like twists or stuff you don't see coming. I just love it. Yeah. So Shutter Island.
You know what, Shutter Island I think gets like it doesn't get the credit it deserves. No, I think that was a good
I love
film.
that one. Things like Triangle, if you've never seen that, it's good. Coherence, just loads of mad stuff.
And do you know what? I'll list a couple more. I am a big fan. I'll pick a genre. I love like post-apocalyptic. So I like Mad Max and shit like that as well. I think I love that as a concept, as a genre. I love playing games that are set in that sort of environment. I love watching films in that sort of environment. So like even like Resident Evil, which technically is a zombie film, but Resident Evil, like the way they set the films up is like it's all post-apocalyptic. You know, the virus coming and fucking ruin everything. And I love that sort of setting. So I watch films like that constantly. But I need to give it a shout out as like again, I can't sit here and honestly say it's my favourite film, but maybe favourite comedy, and it's not another teen movie. And again, I know a lot of people, they look at these sort of films and they go, it's just that typical fucking, you know, like, what do they call it? Daft parody stuff. Parodies really took a really bad turn when they started releasing things like Date Movie and Epic Movie. And they were just shit, and they were just pop culture gags that didn't land. Not another teen movie is not that. Not another teen movie is fantastic. If you've not seen Not Another Teen Movie, it's brilliant. Yeah. And I've watched it many a time, and I'll watch it again. It is so fucking funny.
There's loads of good wrestling movies as well. The Wrestler, I love that film. Ready to Rumble.
If we're going to stick in the Ready to Rumble, we've gone back to so many times. I think we've even reviewed it as the movies because we fucking love that film.
Yeah.
Again,
The Wrestler
gets critically panned.
Check them episodes out. But too many films. Such a hard question. Yeah. So our friend SCW, the wrestling channel, another awesome guy. You're on a karaoke night out. Which wrestling
I love the creativity in this
do you choose to sing?
I know exactly what I'm going to pick.
Go on.
Does it have a name? The Jim Johnson track, Undertaker's theme, when not the American Badass, although Kid Rock, bosh out. That one he did. I'm desperately trying to remember if it had a title, but that You've Done It Now. That one.
You're Gonna Pay, is it?
You're gonna pay. That's it. Yeah, I think it's that one. It's like, all right. Most people wouldn't appreciate me singing that in the karaoke, but that's what I would go. That'd be my go-to, right? Okay. I probably could rock that. I reckon.
I like that. I mean, if I'm going to go out and do karaoke on a night out, I'm probably absolutely pissed off my head, so I'd probably sing Adam Rose's
Nice.
But if it's an actual song with proper lyrics,
you're gonna go ones without lyrics. You're probably trying to do better out, wouldn't
you? I would maybe go Slow Chemical.
Nice.
It's just a shame that Glenn Jacobs is a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, look.
Sorry.
We're not allowed to say this guy's name, right? Well, we are, but it's like this one of these taboo things in wrestling these days. But Chris Benoit's theme was a fucking banger, and it's such a shame because it's forever connected with him. Like people won't even know what the name of the band is. I don't know what the name of the band is. It was a banger of a tune that, and it sadly like the lyrics are kind of fucked up as well now. You know what?
There's no holding me back.
Yeah,
not ideal.
It's driven by anger and stuff, and you're like, it's just. But if you take away. You can't like I'm not trying to just ignore you can't really do that, but that if we're being honest, that was a banger of a tune.
It's been loads. I remember Rob Van Dam's one of a kind and stuff. There's so many good songs.
I never could even keep up with the lyrics. Stone Cold that we mentioned before, the Disturbed version of Stone Cold. I just wish I knew what it says. But that's right. That'd just be that's exactly maybe after a few pints. That's what it sounds like anyway.
Basically. But yeah, fantastic question though. Might be my favourite one. Another anonymous one. Any Netflix recommendations? That's a great one. I started watching the Girl in the Picture yesterday. It's a murder mystery documentary. It's alright so far. But Jen fell asleep, so I had to turn it off. So there's that. There's a film coming out soon with Mila Kunis that looks really interesting on Netflix. That's another mystery one. So I'd recommend that. But
you know what? This is where I don't think I could list anything that isn't like obvious or massively popular. It's like they're not like finding little hidden gems. Yeah. I'm like Stranger Things. This most recent season was actually really good. I know it went shit in the second season. I don't care what anyone says. I gave up on it. But I went back to it, and it's been really good.
Obviously, you can recommend stuff like The Office and Friends and
classics. Absolute classics.
I actually don't find myself watching Netflix all that often.
Cobra Kai. I know you don't watch it. Cobra Kai.
Yeah. I find myself watching either more Prime or Disney Plus stuff. There's that much shit now, isn't there?
Yeah. Do you know what the annoying thing is? There's like, I liked a world when it was mostly just Netflix. Like now, there's so many streaming services. Like I got really, not to digress, I got really pissed off the other week because, and again, this might work slightly different in the States. So apologies to anyone listening from the States. But like, we used to have Now TV as part of our TV package, which is sort of Sky, and they included a lot of stuff like South Park. I could watch every episode of South Park ever, right?
Paramount.
So I'm not used to it being free. And then Paramount Plus come along and go, we're introducing Paramount Plus in the UK. It's like, awesome. I'm not going to get it. I already subscribed to Netflix, Disney, and fucking Prime. I'm not getting Paramount Plus. I'm not paying for another streaming service. Plus, I can just carry on watching what I want. And then I go on to me TV package that I paid for. And I'm looking at it like, I'm missing some shit here. And sometimes I will occasionally go back to South Park because it's just a handy watch. I'm like, South Park's completely gone.
Yeah.
So they've put South Park behind a paywall. Something I've been able to watch, well, I'd say for free. Obviously, I pay for the TV service, so it's not for free. But it would come free with my TV package.
And you're still saying the same price though, aren't you?
Yeah. And I'm like, the fuck did you take all that stuff off me?
It's so frustrating.
It's like, I kind of feel sorry for my TV company because it's like, it's not like they had any say in the matter. Paramount when you're not having it anymore.
It's so funny, isn't it, how time moves on? It's like, we had cable, it's like, well, these programs are on at these scheduled times, you can record them stuff if you want, and people are like, no one's got time for that, there's too many channels, no one knows what to do. We'll do streaming service, we'll have Netflix, that'll be amazing, they'll have everything on it. But now you've gone from paying, I don't know, what, £40 a month or whatever it is for your cable package, I don't know how much it is, where you had all these channels that fine, you have to sift through whatever, to now requiring 5-6 different streaming things at like, 70, 80 quid a year, and it's like, hang on, what's going on?
That's the thing. And you know what? At some point, some fucking genius is going to go, we should compile all these together and make one streaming service that you can access all of it.
Cable.
And then, wait a minute, we went right back around. Yeah. And the funny thing, because I think Prime are kind of getting the idea, but it's still it doesn't work because Prime are quite clever in the way they do it because they go, you're with Amazon Prime, you've got all your Prime stuff, but you can bolt on like Stars and Paramount Plus, and you can add it to so you're going to one place for all your stuff, but you're still paying separately. So they're not benefiting. You're not going, it's cheaper getting the add-on with us because it's not. You're still just paying for Paramount Plus. But I like the fact that it could all be in one UI.
It's just now a hub of streaming services within the streaming service.
So when you asked if we had any Netflix recommendations, no.
No, it's the short form answer.
Yeah, just the obvious ones, unfortunately. I can't bring any
nothing.
gems.
No, but I can't remember what that film's called. But go on IMDb, look at Mila Kunis. The film coming out looks pretty good, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, what was that one I was on about? Resident Evil was disappointing. I know you didn't ask for the opposite, but Resident Evil was I don't know, Carl's like, Resident Evil was awesome. Yeah, the films were, the games were. This series,
yeah, the games were. I've never been a fan of the films, really.
And you can't look at them as a Resident Evil. They got the title, but they're not really about it, are they?
No.
If you isolate them from the games, they're fine. They're good films.
Yeah. How difficult is it managing your prediction series?
I feel like you need to feel this one, Carl, because I just kind of participate in them.
Let me tell you. It's not that bad. It's okay. Depends how many people play it, if I'm honest. I don't have any fancy automated tools. I literally capture all the responses. I go through.
Doesn't have any tools.
I say everyone's names down and then just put whether they voted yes or no to things. I found the easiest way to do it.
There's a lot of Carl, like, a lot of people don't know this about Carl, but he's a stats nerd. He loves stats.
I love a good spreadsheet.
He's got spreadsheets upon spreadsheets.
I track a lot of things.
And I'll make no bones about it. I don't really. I participate in the prediction series. I love the prediction series.
He does fucking nothing.
But Carl manages it, and he kind of. That's why he's like, it's not too bad because he loves it. He puts all the numbers in.
It's fun for me.
Gets to watch all the numbers dance. He fucking loves it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a nice little spreadsheet that sorts it all out, but it's still quite manual. There's tools out there. I ain't paying for that shit. But I write everyone's name in. It depends what we get. Sometimes we've had like 150 people playing it in a month, and that's a bit of a slog. Other times we get like 60, 70, and it's not that bad.
It's mad how varied it is as well, because some people are like the massive WWE fans, but they're not AEW fans. So you get some people who drop off for the AEW stuff.
Mm.
You know, and when we do like overall
there's
scores,
people where fair play to them. Like there's people who like are massive AEW diehards, know nothing about WWE, and like I'll have a go. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, why not? Nothing to lose. Yeah, it's good. I enjoy doing it. I think it's a nice little. It's a nice little thing that we do. I think we've always said we like to offer different things across socials, different stuff.
You know what? We met a lot of cool people through it. And while we're sort of mentioning fun things you can do on socials, another little shout out to T-Pop Wrestling, who do the Fantasy Faction, which is hours of fun as well.
It is indeed. We're shit at it though.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, it's more like a fantasy Premier League, fantasy football type thing, that isn't it? You pick a roster of people and then you get scored each. I don't know, month or however long you do it. Whereas ours is very much predict the outcomes of the matches, and you get a point if you're right, point if you're wrong, and we tally it up over a whole season. They're very different games, but both very fun games. Yeah, which is the main thing. So shout out to the Fantasy Faction, because it is very good. And again, Legend Wrestling Blog UK is back. What's your ultimate goal with the pod and A2theK as a brand? YouTube full time.
Nice. I mean. You know what? I don't know if it's a goal per se. Like in terms of ultimate goal, like if it stayed this forever, that's fine. Mm-hmm. We always just did this because we wanted to be able to catch up with one another. We wanted to be able to talk about something we enjoyed. The fact that we've got any sort of following and we've spoke to the people we have is fucking amazing, and I'm so grateful for that. But ultimate goal, you know, like you mentioned there, YouTube full time. If we can make this a full time job, I've been in the shade. I'm not going to say no to that. If somehow this got popular enough for us to be a full time gig, definitely all day,
hands down.
But again, it sounds like a bit of a cop out, but if it just stays as it is for the rest of its days, then I'm totally fine with that too. We never really had an aim with it. I know some people, you know, the aim with social media and the aim with this sort of stuff is to build up what do they call it, a brand and a status, I suppose, as a sort of online celeb and all that kind of stuff. We never really thought about that, you know.
I suppose. I mean, I'm kind of like Everton. We have no goals.
Hey!
I kid, of course.
We got like one the other day.
We won the other day. It's fine.
Funny. I don't really follow football, but that was funny because he's like watching his beloved football team. And I'm like, you know, and he's like, they scored a goal, and he's like, I'd be happy if it was 2. I'm like, okay, fair enough, I get that.
With Everton, you
want a bit of space.
There needs a bit of a push in there.
I've never seen someone like see his team win and just kind of be like, Yeah.
Because it's stressful, man. It is.
I know. I can see the stress in you. You weren't happy.
It's so stressful.
But
I was relieved.
You said the right words. You're like, yes, it's a good thing. But you weren't happy.
It was a roller coaster. But,
sorry, slight digression.
Yeah, kidding aside, I think we've created little tiny micro goals as we've gone along. Like we said, it'll be cool to get to 100 YouTube subs because it'd be nice to have a personalised URL.
Yeah, because again, little things we found out as we started going.
Yeah.
We started as just a podcast, and we were like, well, we'll try and get YouTube out there, and then it was like, yeah, you have to be like youtube.com/abg136 hash something.
It's not really memorable.
Yeah, and then you have to get to 100 subs to have a unique title. So now we are youtube.com/8theK, which is cool.
8theK Wrestling.
Sorry, which is cool. And then like you say, micro goals would be like, oh, it'd be cool to speak to, like, I don't think we ever had a particular, like, it'd be cool to speak to that person, but then we had like certain things we got to speak to Mickey James, we got to speak to DB, like, not to discredit anyone else we spoke to, like people like we were there watching as kids, and you're like, because there's plenty of people we spoke to, like either they're current wrestlers or they're up and coming wrestlers, and you go, they're absolute legends, but it doesn't have the same surreal effect to when you were like, I was a kid watching wrestling and seeing DDP feuding with Undertaker, which it was a bit of a weird storyline, and being the villain and Ready to Rumble, and then as an adult, I'm like talking to him about how him and The Rock joked about being people's champion. I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool. Yeah, and like you say, micro goals.
Sometimes it's crazy to like you have like a bit of an out of body experience to look down on your life, and you're like, it's cool. It does some cool shit. To be fair, so I don't think I think we've got a couple of things that hopefully bit of progress that we'll be making in certain things.
Sort of changes.
As you can see, we've got obviously the new studio set up.
This was certainly a goal. This is probably the biggest goal we had, was to actually have a set that we would both physically be at, which is nice. Yeah. Pandemic put a foot on that for a while.
We are a pandemic podcast, aren't we? Let's be honest.
Pretty much. I mean, the weird thing is we weren't. In spirit, we decided to make a podcast, and then the pandemic happened.
It's kind of weird. But it all started with the Royal Rumble, didn't it? Anyone doesn't know the story. And me and Anthony were watching it as we do every year. And Anthony was like, because I don't know anything about podcasts, I never really listened to them. I knew the Ricky Gervais podcast. I've listened to that a few times. That was about it. Yeah. I love podcasts. And I was like okay,
I listen to all sorts of, I know no one asked for this, but like I was listening to shout out to not that they need it, but to Two Bears One Cave. I listen to that all the time.
Yeah, big fan.
They're just two friends who, well, they're both famous guys, by the way, famous actors. I'm saying just two friends.
Just two guys.
It's Bear Kreischer and I'm so sorry.
And the other guy.
I'm so sorry. His name escapes me at the moment. It'll come back. Tom Segura. Thank you. It was going to come back to me eventually. So they're both famous dudes, but it was just them two sort of, really good friends, and they basically whatever topic they felt like talking about. That way, we don't have the star power to be able to just talk whatever the fuck we want to talk about. We have to niche down. But their whole setup, I was even saying to Carl, that's what we need to do. We need to have like a table, we need to have TV behind it. We need to have a TV behind it, we need to do it like they do it. They're fucking awesome, right? And then you listen to like story based stuff, like I listen to Welcome to Night Vale, which is like set as like a radio show in a fictional universe. Hours of fun. So I love podcasts, so I was probably more on the podcast train than you were.
Yeah. But stuff like that, I don't think we ever were set out to be like, oh, we're going to have a YouTube channel. Like, it was literally just, we're doing this thing now, talking about wrestling while we're sat here watching the Rumble. Should we record ourselves doing that one time and see what happens? I think that the biggest thing to take away from it is consistency. We've stuck to it. And I think a lot of people have ideas sometimes of going, I'm going to do this, and then after a couple of weeks, or if they don't get famous instantly or whatever, they're like, that's a shit idea.
Because that's the thing, like we've been, like, you could call it, if we were aiming for something, you could call it a grind. If we were like, we want to get to 10,000 followers, that'd feel like a fucking grind. Well, that's it. Probably need to go higher than, not to sound like bragging, but like, if we were trying to get to like 100,000 followers, right? You'd be like, that would be a massive grind, and you look at like, say, like we have, I weren't trying to sound braggy then, but like our TikTok does significantly better than our Instagram. So you try and like equalize them two, that would be a fucking grind. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then it could feel like a fucking chore. But like you say, it's like, because we're not trying to make.
Yeah, I think because our ultimate goal was never to have a podcast. It was, as you said before, we're two best mates from high school that grew up, had families, didn't get much time anymore outside of work and families to spend, adequate time with each other. And we're like, well, you know what, it'd be cool if we touch base every week and just like chat wrestling. So it started, and then we've just kept doing that, haven't we?
But I want to address one thing though. When you mention A to the K as a brand, I'll tell you what my original thought was, to the point that we had to change our name. When we first started doing podcasts, we called it A to the K Wrestle Talk, and the idea behind that was innocently enough that we'd start out doing wrestling, and then if we wanted to digress into other topics, we could do movie talk or TV talk or sport talk or whatever the fuck we wanted to talk about. We could, that, you know, the A to the K would be the consistent thing, and then we would change the element, the talking element, what we were talking about. So that's why originally we were A to the K Wrestle Talk, and then it was like, turns out
we should have known this as well.
I did know this, and you were like, I didn't realise just how big they were. And I'm like, yeah. But there's Wrestle Talk as one of probably the biggest UK based YouTubers in the wrestling scene, and we were like, yeah, it's a bit too similar. And then we were like, you know what, it's fine, because people looking at the A to the K, the Wrestle Talk's just like a subtitle, it's fine. So we stuck with it for ages, and then we actually got a review, and somebody said, there already is a Wrestle Talk. I just totally ignored the A to the K part, and I was like, fuck, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah. And, you know, to be fair though, I liked your idea, what you did with that, where it was like A to the K's Wrestle Talk has evolved, and we had the new rebrand.
I liked doing that Pokemon thing, that was fun.
It was good, that was a nice little...
But that is why we changed it to Wrestling Show.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
And a little fun inside fact, for a time it was going to be the A to the K Wrestling Experience, wasn't it? And then we were like, let's just fucking call it, it's a wrestling show.
It's a show.
So I think at the time, like, I was like, well, how do we talk about ourselves? We have a wrestling show called The Wrestling Show. I was like, but it doesn't matter.
And it's one of them where we kind of got to a point, it was like, well, it's not just a podcast, so I think it's fair to say show, because we put the YouTube out there, we put the TikToks on there, we have the social medias, we have the podcast, you know, so it seemed like there was a few different elements of accessibility. And I mentioned the socials because you might never watch any of these or listen to any of these, but you follow us on social media and join in with Fantasy Faction, for instance.
Yeah.
Not the Fantasy Faction. Oops.
Prediction series.
God
damn it, cheap up.
Look what you did. Yeah, that's took over their thing.
I know.
So you might participate in the prediction series, and that's what you really enjoy. So it's like, okay, so some people don't go for all elements. Like the people who probably listen to us have never seen our TikToks.
Exactly.
Which surprisingly people like.
But yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, yeah, we just do like wrestling morphs, don't we? On there, so we should probably do more videos about us. To be fair,
we've dabbled, haven't we? But again, not that we're like trying to get the views, but like the stuff that goes off with the morphs, aren't they? People want the morphs. To the point people request, like, do Danhausen. You're like, okay.
I don't know. That was his dad who requested that. Though,
that was allegedly. I'm not saying you're not, by the way. You just were like, do Danhausen. He's my son. I'm like, I'll take your word for it. Like, I don't see why he's not, but you know.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think obviously we never set out with a massive goal. We still probably don't have a massive goal. Like, to Anthony's point of, you know, someone rocked up to us and was like, how would you big boys like to do this full time? Here's $1 million. Then we'd be like, okie dokie.
Although film and TV has taught me to suspect anyone who approaches me like that, offering $1 million. I'm like, nah, I'm going to get screwed over somehow here.
Yeah, well, certain things I've watched of people approaching like that, saying, want to be a star, don't you? Makes me think I'm going to get screwed over too.
Yeah.
To be fair. But no, I think obviously that would be a dream, wouldn't it? But at the same time, I think what we've achieved so far has been somewhat of a dream. And I think, you know, considering that it is just like, you know, a little bit of insight for you now. We had an interview before with a Hall of Famer that'll be coming out soon, which was
one was like, I watched you as a kid.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
That one was surreal. That one was one which we've been trying to get in for a while, but just couldn't.
Been playing hard to get for a bit. This guy.
Hard to get. So, but we had that, and then we had obviously.
Kind of. They know it's a guy now. Sorry.
That's fine. And then we had a couple of other segments, and now it's now 1:30 a.m, for example.
Yeah.
And it's like this is. I don't know. We both got work both got work tomorrow. So.
I don't even know how to do this.
Bosses. But yeah, so it's one of them. In an ideal world, yes, we would do this full time, but. I think we've made loads of progress as it is, and yeah, there's going to be hopefully another milestone kind of that we probably didn't even dream of.
Not something we had on our sort of bingo card, if you will, but something an opportunity that may have come up, which is interesting.
So hopefully we can reveal more about that soon as well. So yeah, I think the goal for now is just keep doing what we're doing, keep meeting up regularly, and just keep
drinking beer.
Keep drinking beer from Top Row Brewery. But just slowly and surely, just getting, tweaking things, you're just getting more refined, and hopefully, if you've been, a day one down since day one, you'll see how we've kind of evolved as a show, and yeah, we'll continue to just keep doing what we do. And
So
is that the last
we
question?
thoroughly answered that question.
That was the last question.
Oh, glad we spent so much time on that one.
Phew. An hour and 15 minutes. We do like to talk.
We do like to talk. But if, you know what? If it's a question and answer series episode, we're gonna do some talking out.
That is true. We have to answer the questions, right? And yeah, the funny thing is, we had loads more as well. So thanks everyone on Instagram who sent us them. And you know,
it's been fun. It's nice that we actually can interact with people enough on Instagram that we get questions. That's even that in itself is like, honestly, that means a lot.
Exactly. Anyone who likes any of our stuff, and you know, we sometimes we just put stupid shit out there. Sometimes we put, you know, oh god, these guys have got the show coming out again. And sometimes we send messages to people and things and be like, hey, check it out.
Sometimes I go to Carl, I think this would be funny, but he's good with the graphic stuff. So I'm like, I think this would be funny. You need to make it happen.
Make it happen.
And then you get random shit on Instagrams and stuff, because that's kind of how that evolves.
The Vince McMahon jetpack thing, for example. Yeah. A meme I'd never even seen before, and I was like, people like this. It turns out, yeah, you did so fair play. But yeah, so. Big thanks to all of you. If you're listening, then we appreciate it, and thanks for helping us do well in the Apple charts, which we didn't realise we would be doing, so that's cool. And yeah, YouTube continues to grow up to 750 subs. We saw it before, 750 odd anyway, so that's cool.
Next goal, 1,000.
Yeah, we had 500,000 likes on TikTok, which is cool. So yeah, just these little micro, you know, milestones, micro goals, and yeah, hopefully some pretty cool shit to announce soon as well. So. Thank you all very much. Hopefully that was a bit of an insight into us. And yeah, let us know.
And it's like, oh no, we've lost viewers.
Well, I mean, to be fair, and you know, anyone who's still here at this point, whether you're listening or you're watching, keen to know, like, length of show. Like, this one's gone like an hour 15 now.
Like, yeah, question for you. How long is too long?
Find out next week. I might be saying it. Yeah, let us know how long is too long. And yeah, we will reveal more about our super cool interview that we did today.
Yeah, it'll be dropping sometime later in this week, possibly maybe
the
next
weekend.
Because it's like Wednesday already, so I'm hoping for the weekend.
Thursday morning now.
That is true. Thursday already.
Yeah, we will love you and leave you. And
I gotta go to work, so.
Yeah, may as well just stay up till work time. Yeah, we'll leave you with Thunder Rosa to say goodbye.
Hey everybody, this is Thunder Rosa, and you're watching or listening A to the K. A to the K. A to the K.
A to the K.